Imagine stepping outside right now. The wind is howling, the temperature is -30 degrees, and your entire wardrobe consists of one slightly damp cow skin and a dream. That was Tuesday for a Stone Age human. Today, if the Wi-Fi drops for 10 minutes or the central heating dips by 2 degrees, we throw a national crisis. We wrap ourselves in electric blankets, sip imported chamomile tea, and complain that modern life is grueling. Meanwhile, 30,000 years ago, our ancestors were casually out here surviving Ice Age winters that would turn a modern survivalist into a human popsicle inside of 45 minutes. How did they do it? How did they pull off this absolute masterclass in extreme weather survival without a single down jacket, radiator, synthetic fleece, or even a basic cup of hot cocoa? Let's break down the sheer beautiful absurdity of how Ice Age humans managed to cheat death every single winter. First, let's address the elephant in the room, or rather, the lack of North Face outlets in the Pleistocene. When people think of cavemen clothing, they picture a stylish one-shoulder fur tunic ripped straight out of a cheap cartoon. But Hollywood has completely lied to us. Stone Age fashion wasn't about looking rugged and chic, it was a hardcore exercise in engineering. If you just wrap a raw animal skin around your body, do you know what happens? It gets wet, it freezes solid, and you essentially lock yourself inside a mobile meat freezer. Ancient humans realized very quickly that to survive a freezing winter, they had to become master tailors. They didn't just wear animal skins, they engineered them. Using needles carved from bone and thread made from animal tendons, sinew, they sewed multi-layered fitted garments. They wore inner layers of soft, insulating fur facing inward against the skin and tough, wind-resistant hides facing outward. Think about that. They were sewing winter gear with bone needles while freezing to death. If you've ever tried to sew a button back onto a shirt and accidentally stabbed your finger, imagine doing that while a saber-toothed cat is lurking outside and your fingers are losing all sensation. And it wasn't just coats. They made multi-layered boots stuffed with dry grass as natural insulation. If your feet got wet in the Ice Age, game over. Frostbite doesn't care about your cave paintings, so their footwear was basically a primitive, waterproof, insulated moon boot. Next up is the housing crisis. When you think of a caveman, you think of a dark, damp cave. And yes, some lived in caves because free real estate is hard to turn down. But caves are actually terrible winter homes. They are basically giant stone refrigerators that hold the cold. So what did they do when caves weren't available? They built. During the harsh winters of Eastern Europe, groups of ancient humans built massive, elaborate circular dwellings made almost entirely out of mammoth bones and tusks. Imagine walking across a frozen, windswept steppe, looking around and thinking, you know what this landscape needs? A giant structural frame made from 20 dead mammoths. They draped heavy hides over these mammoth bone frameworks and piled earth, turf, and animal fat around the base to insulate against the biting wind. Inside these mammoth bone huts, they dug central hearths. And this brings us to fire, the ultimate MVP of human history. Today, turning on a heater is as simple as flipping a switch or tapping a thermostat. In the Stone Age, fire was high-stakes survival magic. If your fire went out, your entire family could literally die before dawn. So how do you keep a fire burning all winter long when everything outside is frozen solid and damp? You don't just start a fire, you curate a lifestyle around it. Ancient hearths weren't just campfires, they were carefully engineered furnaces. They dug pits into the ground, lined them with specific stones that retained heat, and burned dense, slow-burning woods or even dried bones when wood was scarce. They kept the fire burning 24/7. Someone always had to feed the beast. And let's talk about the fuel itself. Burning bone sounds weird, but dry animal bone burns surprisingly well because of the residual fat trapped inside. Picture sitting in a giant bone hut during a blizzard, burning mammoth ribs to keep warm, while the wind screams outside at -40 degrees. It sounds like heavy metal album art, but it was just Tuesday night housekeeping. Of course, keeping warm requires energy, and that means food. In the modern world, if we get hungry during a blizzard, we open the fridge, grab some leftover pizza, or order takeout on an app. If delivery fails us, we get sad. In the Stone Age, if you wanted calories to fuel your internal furnace during winter, you had to hunt things that could easily kill you back. Think about it. During an Ice Age winter, plants don't grow. Berries, gone. Salads, a distant myth. Roots, locked under a foot of solid permafrost like concrete. The local grocery store is completely out of stock. So what was on the menu? Meat. Massive amounts of high-fat, high-calorie meat. To survive the cold, the human body needs fuel, lots of it. An active human in freezing conditions burns an astronomical number of calories just shivering and maintaining core temperature. If they ate lean rabbit all winter, they would actually die of protein poisoning, a condition where your body breaks down because it lacks fat and carbohydrates. So they targeted the heavyweights, woolly mammoths, giant deer, woolly rhinos, and reindeer. These animals were fat-heavy, which provided the vital caloric density needed to stay warm. And because they didn't have refrigerators, freezers, or food preservation chemicals, nature did the work for them. They created the world's first natural deep freeze. They cached meat in frozen ground or natural ice cellars, keeping it preserved all winter long. Imagine walking out into a howling blizzard, carving a chunk of frozen mammoth steak off a cache outside your mammoth bone hut, bringing it inside and roasting it over a bonfire. It's brutal, it's metal, and it works. Now, let's look at the hidden weapon that truly allowed them to conquer the cold: each other. We tend to romanticize the rugged lone survivor. Hollywood loves the lone wolf walking across a snowy wasteland. But in reality, a lone human in an Ice Age winter lasted about as long as a snowflake on a hot skillet. Survival was entirely communal. If you got sick, injured, or exhausted, your group didn't leave you behind to freeze. Archaeological evidence proves that Stone Age humans cared deeply for their sick and elderly. They set broken bones, nursed people through infections, and shared food communally. Why? Because in an Ice Age, isolation is a death sentence. Gathering around a central fire inside a crowded, stinky, bone and hide tent wasn't just about sharing warmth. It was social psychology. Sharing stories, carving tools together, keeping spirits high. Mental morale was just as important as physical calories. When it's dark for 18 hours a day and the wind sounds like a freight train, community is what keeps people from losing their minds. So, the next time you look outside your window on a chilly morning, wrapped in your fleece bathrobe, holding a warm mug of coffee, take a second to thank your ancestors. They didn't have weather apps, thermal underwear, space heaters, or hot water on demand. They had a bone needle, a mammoth rib cage, an endless supply of grit, and a stubborn refusal to let the Ice Age win. They didn't just survive the freeze, they engineered their way through it, proving that human adaptability is the ultimate superpower.